Let's make sure it started. Right, back here for part 2 with Billy Liles. Right, here we go. If you could re-race a meeting or a race tomorrow in your full prime, where and what would it be and why?
Again, I would go back to the 1990 Italian GP just because of that one mistake.
Yeah.
You know, we could have not been pushing so hard to rectify it.
Yeah.
And, you know, slowed down a little bit with our pace. And, you know, even a bad weekend would have been better than breaking your femur.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think it was just a case of just settling for something instead of just chasing it still?
Yeah, I mean, we could have, you know, quit trying to chase it so quick.
Yeah.
Sat down, you know, through the afternoon hours, and you know, we knew we were going in the right direction, but I was wanting it immediately instead of having the patience, you know, I mean, we were still having lap times in the top 8 or so, even, and it wasn't that it was running awful, but it, you know, it had a dead point, and we were getting better and better. We just needed to take bigger steps, you know.
Yeah.
And should have been more patient.
Let's shame that one then. What do you feel was your best achievement in motocross and why?
Wow. I would say my best achievement was my representation of our MX Des Nations team in Australia. My nickname for the weekend was Grandpa because I was 30 years old, you know, and I think Larocco and Emig were like 22 and 23. And with my European experience, I knew, you know, the classes and who would be tough, you know, and we actually sat down and conversed a little bit, especially with your starting gate pick. You know, we were like number 1 and 30 something. And at the track, I was willing to give them the inside gate, the shorter distances to the first turn.
Yeah.
I said, look, I've got horsepower. Let me start out here. All those starts weren't my greatest thing. You know, I programmed myself that weekend. I think the worst start I had was like 6th or 7th place from way outside, and just had to work through and get, you know, and even at the end of the event when numbers were juggling, you know how the points change because you're running 2 different classes and stuff.
Yeah.
We, at one point, you know, I was full go. I had to go. Once I got to second, it's like, hold your position. Don't take, you know, basically we're good. We're clean. No matter what happens, if you stay where you're at.
Yeah.
And we were just well organized that weekend. Our mechanics, which mine was Belgium, Herman Jeevers. You know, but we just had a plan together, and once we were there, they're like, we're good. We just held positions because we wanted to win, irregardless. You know, we were well thought out and organized.
What was the response like from back home after you won that?
You know, the Coster gave us a poor response. You know, bunch of rookies, bunch of this. I mean, the guy, I respect him as a 5-time world champion, and he's a great rider, but, you know, don't count us out. You know, that's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. You certainly showed everyone that weekend.
Well,
must have been the fastest grandpa in the world that weekend then.
Well, you know, like I said, we all kind of constructed good conversation, camaraderie, and you know, we went with one ambition, and that was to come back. The only weekend with the number 1 plate, and I came with it and I left with it. And you know, again, that's those pictures. I've still got a set of the gear, you know, from that weekend, the helmet. I gave the mechanic a helmet as well. I mean, just good memories to open that box up and take a peek at it, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty special. That is. That's a great memory, isn't it? Never forget that one. Um, who were the riders that you used to always seem to have run-ins with and didn't enjoy to race with much?
It wasn't that I didn't enjoy racing with him, but Marvin Asti he was a pain.
You're not the first
And
one to say that about Murph.
well, and you know, I think he was just trying to do the best he could, and he would get himself into situations that put you in a severely compromised spot. I remember, I think it was France
Yeah.
in '90. I had a good run in with him, and even to the point I went to his tent as soon as I got back. I mean, he just left me nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And you know, those were fighting moments. You know, I mean, there was no punches thrown, but that was one weekend that again, calmer. Just let's get through the weekend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I suppose that's why his nickname was Merv the Swerve come from as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's a likable chap.
Yeah, really. Yeah, he
He
is. Yeah.
was. He just, like I said, I mean, he was out there to do the same thing we were, and he was one that when you come up on, you were cautious. Pick a place to pass him and get away from him. You
Yeah,
know, and you don't always have that option. When you got to go, you got to go.
yeah, yeah. In that era of yours in the 90s and the 500s, it was a very gladiator type of era of the riders in then days. It's what it seemed to be like anyway.
Yeah, I think they're all there no matter what. It's just the personalities prevailed a lot, through those years, and
Yeah,
recognition, and it was a big deal. I mean, to be the top British guy, to be the top Belgian. I think I'm probably the only rider. I didn't win a national championship in my own country, but I
yeah.
won an Italian 500 national championship and a Belgian 500 national championship. But I
Yeah,
don't have one from the U.S. I have some thirds, fourths, fifths,
yeah,
top 10 in Supercross. But I don't have one from my own country, but I own one from Italy and one from Belgium. And if you count Luxembourg, I mean, we rode on a Luxembourg license one year too. So, we really didn't have one, but I was the top rider in that class. So, it's just one of those things.
one all around the world anyway. If you could give some advice to a youngster that's currently racing in youth motocross but wants to go pro, what would the advice be?
Preparation, the physical. There are a lot of fast riders out there
Yeah,
that have a lot of talent,
yeah,
but the physical preparation for the season is
yeah,
what will make it or break it.
yeah,
Um, I mean, you're gonna have bruises, bumps. Some days you're gonna hurt more than others,
yeah,
but the better shape you can build and start the season in, the better off you're going to be throughout, because it's a tough man sport. Um,
yeah,
you know, again, a lot of riders are fast,
yeah,
but you got to have a little bit of luck,
yeah,
but the physical preparation, the equipment's got to be good. And it not even always has to be the best equipment out there, but you can overcome a lot of that with endurance, strength, uh, know what your bike's good at, where you
yeah,
can push and where you need to pull back.
yeah. Very good advice. Were there any niggling injuries that a lot of people didn't know that you were constantly racing with that you feel that held you back a little bit and maybe stopped you from achieving a few more results in respect to that?
I wouldn't think so.
No.
I mean, I remember falling off at an international race in France and dislocating my shoulder and it relocating in the tumble and walking around, with a shoulder sunk about 3 inches on one side. And, GP weekend, it was tape it all up to the shoulder and go. I mean, there was always, a sore knee but that was probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
And I think I did it the weekend before the GP in Namur. So again, it wasn't
not
the
good
best
for
track to be going to.
no,
But
no.
I think we walked away that weekend with like a third or fourth place. Um, the good side, you could sit down a lot, in Namur because of
Yeah.
the way the track was and stuff. And but that was probably one of the most aggravating injuries. But that and I guess therapy, because when you walked around, your shoulder was sunk, an inch or two, and it took 3 or 4 months to get all the muscles back where they were. But it really only affected me the first weekend or so after.
Fair enough.
Gotta
Fair
be,
enough. So back to
gotta
that
be stubborn.
gladiator thing. Back to that gladiator thing I was talking about. See.
Gotta be stubborn.
Yeah, that's good. What did you the Namor? What did you think about the whole? The where you said about the asphalt going past the pub, wouldn't it? When you dropped down past the pub and
Yeah,
went down that bit and the ski jump, I think at the end or whatever. What did you think of all that? What was that like?
I loved it. I mean, again, I just the track to ride was awesome. But from a spectator point, you could only see short sections of the track, even through the woods. Um, it was from a rider standpoint, it was a fun track to ride, but from a spectator point, it was tough.
Yeah,
Like I said, and it was kind of inconvenient, like I said, to the paddock, to the track. It was a great event, kind of a legendary event, if
yeah,
if, if you want to call it that. But
yeah,
it always seemed something. Me in that place, there was something. I was okay, but it just didn't click.
yeah. I suppose a lot of people wouldn't know about this awkwardness for going from the pits to the start and everything for the riders. A lot of people wouldn't have been maybe aware of that. Then.
Yeah, I mean, we were, gosh, a good 150 yards up the hill in a closed off place.
Yeah,
Um, and then to go or do anything or, go, you really couldn't walk around the track unless, there was no riding going on. Um, just kind of a hard situation to improve a line or anything without having somebody walking around, different locations, taking
yeah,
videos or stopping you and saying, hey, you need to try this. This looks like a good line,
yeah, yeah,
or something like that, because just none of it was real visible. It's kind of closed off.
yeah, yeah. Well, can I ask you, what did you think of the tracks in England? I know you mentioned Hawkstone, but did you race a few of them? Fox Hill.
Remember Fox Hill? They were nice tracks.
Yeah.
Fox Hill, a little more hardcore, hard terrain. We did a lot of testing, that year over there too, and it just seemed to be a lot of the way that the tracks were. But Hawkstone was probably my favorite, just because of the hills. The back sand hole in the back was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But again, I like when I got to that point, you actually had to slow up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just fly into it wide open. I mean, people laying over here and off to the right, off to the left.
Yeah.
You had to have a certain rhythm to go through that section. And then even coming back up to come down the front straight and then up the hill. It was unique.
What about the big, because they had the big whoops that everyone was trying to go across as well. What did you think? What did you make of that?
Oh, I loved them. I mean, again, if you went too fast, you were going down. If you went too slow, you just, you were going to ride through them one at a time. And it was kind of a unique, you had to find a certain middle point just to kind of bounce through at a certain speed.
Yeah.
Some of the guys you could go too fast, one lap slow. I mean, I went for consistency. Pick a line, stick it here in your head. Hey, we got to back off just a little bit and build as we go through. It takes a little bit of maturity, and we got to get through every lap.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I was talking to Dave Thorpe earlier, and obviously someone asked him a question about, because he had a big get off through there one year, and yeah, he said that he was losing a lot of time through there, so he had to try and get through there, but he had a big off.
Yeah.
I'm sure plenty did. Next question I had was, what was the reason that you actually went to Europe to race the GPs and leave America? What was all behind that?
I was riding for the factory Cowie team here. Just a little disgruntled, with the team manager. Again, just one of those situations we were butting heads, about bike setup. Well, they're sending you this and you're running the old settings, blah, blah, blah. And, I said, for me, this I understand. I have confidence in this. Maybe it produces more horsepower, or maybe it does this, but for my riding, I go consistently faster on this machine, and just, constantly butting heads. I came over for an international race in Italy, and, they brought me this works bike, and I said, guys, I want a production bike. I want to put my forks and shock and an exhaust pipe on it. And they're all looking at me like I'm crazy. We were running production-based bikes, with the modifications. And, I think I performed really well that weekend. I think I run second to Gabor's and Thorpe. One of them was first, one of them was third. And the Italians offered me, a contract that week. I went over and met with M. Robert and Cinti and those guys. And, I sat down and thought about it. I was there for another week and a half, thought long and hard about it, and looking up some of the tracks and all. And at the time, it was a good opportunity. I was, kind of distancing myself from the U.S. as far as, the qualms, quarrels with the team. And it was just a good opportunity. And I knew I'd have to stay for a while and make it work, figure it out. But, I had an okay first year learning the ropes, but in '88, I won the San Marino Grand Prix for them and had a good year, and just kind of figured out my path,
Just one off the cuff. Do you actually watch any motocross or supercross or anything now? Is there any guys you like to watch at all now?
A little bit. I mean, I watched, some on TV. We did go to the 2018 Motocross des Nations in Michigan. We had a big American Riders reunion for the ones that were still around. I mean, we've lost Magoo, Chandler. We just recently lost Marty Smith. Losing Gabor's. I mean, he drowned. I mean, a fantastic athlete.
Yeah.
It's just not something you think about. I don't know if he could swim or couldn't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was one heck of an athlete. It's just, we've had some great losses, and just, shout out to all of them and, miss them for sure.
Yeah. Would you say what if the three best riders that you race with in your time? Who would you say they were?
Definitely Hannah. Because I mean I've come into his career at the end of his and kind of sort of the beginning of mine. When I won my first national in 1983 at Lake Whitney, Texas, he was the first guy to the back door of my truck to congratulate me. I mean, being from Georgia, Chick-fil-A sandwiches, he loved them. You can't get them when you're out west. I would get calls during the week. Hey, can you go by Chick-fil-A? The home one was right at the airport. And I would get boxes of Chick-fil-A all saran wrapped and baggaged up to check his luggage, and carry to press events and stuff like at Seattle. I'd come rolling in. He's at my car beating on the window. Hey, you got my chicken? But he probably, again, was the epitome of everything in our sport, for me.
Yeah.
Of course, my dad was a Yamaha dealer as well, geez. And you get me talking about Hannah, I kind of lose my mind about everything else just because the guy he was everything and then some,
Yeah, yeah.
I was a big fan too of David Bailey's.
David Bailey, yeah.
I mean, he had a freak crash that, paralyzed him.
Yeah.
Again, he was, when we were at Michigan, we were kind of all staying in the same hotel, got to see him again. Great memories and, see that he was doing well. That's probably the most riders, being reunited with Jeff Emig and Mike LaRocco. We actually sat in the dinner tent, with signing autographs. And I think we were the only full, complete team that was there. But we sat 1, 2, 3 together, as a group when we were signing autographs. I mean, that was just a big thrill.
Yeah, I bet that was pretty cool as well.
It was for all of us to be there. I mean, Mike, he's a big old boy. He walked up and bumps me on the shoulder and goes, "Hey, man, how are you?" It ain't changed a bit. I mean, he's still just big boy,
Is there any shout outs you'd like to put out there before we go, or anything that you want to say?
I'd like to holler out to Kurt Nickel, and I'm gonna sit back through and holler at the guys from Motovision. I saw Gareth in Michigan, and then you telling me everything's kind of becoming available through them. That's going to be good too. I mean, you can kind of fish through and see stuff, but that's awesome. I mean, and I didn't recognize him because when I lived in Belgium and they moved over to Belgium.
Yeah.
They actually took over the house that I was renting.
Oh, right, okay.
On my, they were looking for a place, and I said, "Well, I'm going to England, in '93."
Yeah.
They actually took over the house that I was living in, and I didn't even recognize him. He's standing there talking to me, and I'm like,
yeah, trying to figure.
I was like, oh my goodness, just. But yeah, that was kind of a good moment just to kind of reunite with them.
Yeah, they're literally like posting all these videos back up again on YouTube at the moment, and it's like all the videotapes I used to get when I was growing up, and they literally posted them all up now. So it's like brilliant to watch it all again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Really good. I'm actually speaking to Kurt next week, so I'll mention that you said hello to him as well.
Right. Well, and you know how to get a hold of me and pass it on to him. Like I said, I'd like to say hello to him. I mean, I was looking at his picture and couldn't get over how much he looks like his dad.
Yeah, Dave. That's actually the last thing I was supposed to ask you is what are you on any social media platforms that anyone can?
Well, again, Facebook's all new to me. It's something, people kept bombarding my wife. Hey, is this Billy's wife? And
yeah.
So she set up, on Facebook, it's Billy and Donna. And she was supposed to take care of it and manage it. You see what trouble I had getting on Skype here. And again, I'm just a dumb old country boy, But like I said, I have a lot of friends there, and been kind of keeping up with it, on a weekly basis. It's not something I sit, when I'm at work, I'm at work. I don't. That phone's more for an emergency or whatever. And, I mean, it's getting to the point now when you go to dinner here in the U.S., you sit down at a restaurant and there's 3 or 4 kids sitting at the next table. Yeah. They're not conversing and, being friendly to each other. They're sitting there with a phone, texting and talking to someone totally in a different place. And I grew up. When we went to dinner, we sat and enjoyed our time. We talked to each other. I mean, they might have said 3 words at a table. Each one of them had a phone, and I don't know. It's just the difference in society. It blows me away.
Well, Billy, I really appreciate the trouble you went to sort this out for me as well. It's been amazing to speak to you.
I appreciate you letting me be a part of it. I mean, I'm a motorcyclist at heart. Love the people. You know, there's not a better group of people in the world to me. I mean, it's pretty much been my whole life.
Yeah, you were loved by many fans, including myself. So it's been an honor to speak to you tonight. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you putting up with me, letting me set up and getting all this done. And thanks for the lesson.
Thank you very much, Billy. Hopefully you get to speak to you again soon on the old Facebook.
Stay in touch. Yes, sir.
Cheers, Billy. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Top man. Thank you.
Okay, he should be disconnecting. Okay.